Hi, my name is Kara Levy, and I am your school psychologist. Thank you so much for joining me today for our workshop on supporting our students during distance learning. My goal for these workshops is to get some ideas, suggestions, and resources to our families and our communities to help our students during virtual instruction. So for many of you, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, so a little quick background on me. I have been a practicing school psychologist for the last 10 years with LAUSD, and prior to that with Irvine Unified School District. I have a master's in educational psychology and a credential in school psychology. And prior to becoming a school psychologist, I worked in the private school setting, working with students with learning differences and ADHD, which is what brought me to my role as a school psychologist. But as a school psychologist, my job is to help all students in finding ways to make sure that they are accessing the curriculum. And so that's what brings me here today, is to help all of our students get through this challenging moment, and supporting you as families on ways to help them do that. So I'd like to start off with this picture. There we go. This picture, which is how I'm feeling now, and I don't think I'm alone. Right now, while we're all at home, when everything is happening within the home, and our roles and our jobs have expanded into fields that we just never imagined ourselves in, we're all feeling frazzled. We all feel as though we need to be cloning ourselves in order to get all of the things done that we need to accomplish. You know, we are not only doing our own jobs, our own careers, but as parents, you're focused on, being in part an instructor for your child during distance learning. You're entertaining them, you're trying to get their physical, wiggles out, getting them the physical energy met, which is difficult since we're supposed to be staying home the whole time. Managing your own self-care. So today I want to talk about some tips and strategies to help you hopefully reduce some of that stress, ways to set up your child during distance learning for success, and to hopefully reduce some of the responsibility that you may be feeling during distance learning. So my first tip or suggestion is to designate a learning space for your child. I'm sure you've heard this before, but I wanted to clarify what that means, because we don't all have the luxury of having a separate office space, not only for ourselves, but for our children, our students as well. So when I'm talking about designating a learning space, I'm talking about providing your child with some type of visual cue that tells them, now is my time to be thinking about school, to be thinking about learning. It's not social time, it's not play time. The visual cue tells them, all I'm thinking about, all I'm doing right now is school time. So many of our students may be learning in their bedrooms. Some students find that sitting on their bed is most comfortable, maybe sitting on a couch in the living room is most comfortable. So how do we designate that space as a learning time, not playtime, bedtime, watching TV time? Well, one way to do that is to use a blanket or a pillow that is only out when it's school time. So if you have, let's say, a red blanket When that red blanket is out on the bed, that tells your child it's school time. I'm not doing anything else but school. When the blanket goes away, it's playtime, it's social time, it's doing all the fun things that I get to do outside of school. If your child is using a tabletop, maybe it's a kitchen table, a dining room table, maybe it's the kitchen countertop, how do we designate that space as learning time from family eating time, socializing time? One way to do it is to use a specific placemat. Maybe it's as simple as a piece of construction paper that's the same every day. But that visual cue tells them it's time for learning. If you don't want to use a placemat, maybe it's a specific cup that's out every day, the same cup every day that tells your child it's time to learn. If your child does have a desktop, maybe it's in their room, a lot of times that desk is used for many different things throughout their day. So removing items from that desk that may be more leisure-like activities, such as drawing, colored pencils, crayons, removing those items and just having their school books out or their binders and their computer, that's a visual cue that says, now it's time for learning. When school time and homework is over, those then get put away and the fun stuff can come out onto the desk. Now, if you're lucky enough to have multiple devices in your home, another idea is to have one specific device that's designated just for school and another that's designated for more social playtime. That way, that school laptop or iPad isn't also used for Minecraft or Zoom social time with friends. That can also be a visual cue to help structure their environment to tell them it's learning time. So as adults, we're able oftentimes to, when we go into an office, not during COVID, but when we go into an office, we're able to leave that work thought process at the office and come home and focus on all the things that we need to do within our home. It's hard to do that during COVID because time tends to sort of bleed into each other, sort of blend into itself when everything is happening at home. It almost feels as though our work, and for our students, their school is never ending because they don't have that structure of going to school, doing school and that setting, and being able to leave that behind when they come home, with the exception of homework. So these visual cues can help structure their day to let them know now is the time to be thinking about school, or now is the time to play and do all of the other things that are important for my growth and development as a child. The second tip that I have for today is setting up and maintaining a schedule for your child. Now, I'm sure you've heard this before. This isn't mind-blowing new information, but I wanted to clarify my perspective on maintaining a schedule. Your child's teacher has already done a fantastic job of building in a schedule into their school day. So how can we carry that same idea over into the rest of our day throughout distance learning? So it's less about the time structure, although that's important, and it's more about what do I need to have accomplished throughout my day. That's what goes into this first column. All of the things that need to happen every day. They're must-dos. You might have teachers that say there's must-dos and then there's may-dos. The must-dos go into that first column. The then column are the may-dos. The then are the little rewards or reinforcements that help us get back to the first column. It helps get us through the day, replenishes our energy. So for us as adults, it could be as simple as when we wake up in the morning, we have our breakfast, we have our coffee, and we get to our emails. That's the first thing that we find ourselves doing in the morning. We check some emails, maybe we respond to some of those, and the then column is, now it's time to get up and have a little coffee break. Get up, move around, drink some coffee, and then I come back. It's that then column that helps keep us going, that helps keep the momentum of the day going. So we can set this up for our students in a number of different ways. Obviously, they don't have coffee breaks, but we need to find some ways to build in some pleasure or some rewards and reinforcement for them in order to help them accomplish the tasks in the must-do column or the first column. So I'm going to show you an example here. You'll see on the left, the must-do column. We start off in the morning with the basic things that need to happen throughout our morning in terms of brushing our teeth, washing up, making the bed, getting dressed. It starts off with simple tasks, and I do this because we want our children to feel successful, especially at the beginning of the day. We can't start off with things that are just overwhelming at the beginning of the day. We want them to build success at the start. So those tasks are certainly not going to take an hour, right? So that leaves the child with time to be able to do a may-do activity before they get back to the must-dos. So after your child's brushed their teeth, washed up, made their bed, and gotten dressed, they might have 20 or 30 minutes to then draw or go outside and play. After, when it's 8 o'clock, now it's time to come back. We have to get back to our must-do list. Okay, we've had our little break, we've had our little reinforcement time. Now what do we have to accomplish? Okay, once we've done our 20 minutes of reading, we've eaten our breakfast, and we've cleaned up our dishes, we still have 15 minutes. What can I do in 15 minutes? We go to our may-do column. It's those little rewards to get us through the day. So one way to make this really work is to get your child's buy-in. Now, sit down with your child, create your daily schedule, your must-dos, make sure that they're a part of that conversation. And most importantly, what are the may-dos? What are the fun activities that they're going to be able to choose from after they've accomplished their must-dos? That's an important piece for them to be a part of. When you're sitting with your child and creating this together, the reason why it helps with the buy-in is because it really helps them feel empowered, as though they've had some control over their day, their daily experience. Right now, so many of us feel like what's going on is just out of our control, and there's very little that we do have control over, and children are feeling that even more. So this is one way for them to feel like they have some control. And it also puts responsibility off of you and onto the child. Now, one of the tricks that we use in transitioning from the may-do column back into the must-do, because that can be tricky, is using timers and countdowns. So timers are going to help the child know, obviously, how much time they have to be playing outside or drawing until it's time to go back to their, homework time or their reading time. Countdowns are also important. Here is what is the key to making this successful. As a parent, you have to have control over when the child has access to that may do column or the then column. If the child has access to their drawing materials when they're supposed to be doing synchronous Zoom instruction, then it's no longer, reliant upon their completion of that activity. So whatever goes into that may do column, you as a parent have to be able to control access to that reinforcement or that reward. If not, it's not going to work. The child's just going to do the may do's when they're supposed to be doing the must do's. So it's easier for younger kids. That's the honest truth. It does get a little harder for older kids. So you really have to think about when you're working with your child on setting up that may do list, okay, how can I control access or to that reinforcement, to that reward? So the big picture here is set your child up for success with that visual cue, set them up for success with a structured visual list of what needs to be accomplished throughout the day, and build in little ways to reward them when they've accomplished the activities on that list, making sure that they only have access to those rewards or breaks after they've accomplished that must-do list. The last idea here that I want to share is the illusion of choice for your child. Anytime that we feel like we have control or power over a situation, the more likely we are to then participate in that. That's why it's important to sit with your child and set up that must do, may do. This is particularly important when both tasks are undesirable. So I'm sure you've been in the situation where you're trying to get ready for an outing and your child is just refusing to, figure out what to wear. And you say, all right, you got to wear a shirt. Not wearing a shirt is not an option. What do you want to wear, the red or the blue shirt? It's up to you. You get to choose which one do you want to do, or which shirt do you want to wear. It gives them an illusion of choice or power over the situation, and it helps to build their sense that, okay, if I get to choose, I'm more willing to participate in this. So they're going to be more willing to follow through when they feel like they're in control. So this can be, when you have that list of must-dos, there's probably going to be multiple tasks within a segment of time. It can be their choice. What do they want to accomplish first? Some kids are going to want to accomplish the easy task first. That's okay. That's going to build their momentum. Some children are going to want to do the hard task first, just get it out of the way. That's okay too. Whatever works for your child, as long as they accomplish everything that's in that must-do list, they're going to get reinforced with the may-dos. The last thing that I want to share with you is just a quick self-care tip. I'd like to end all of my video segments with a quick self-care reminder. So we are lucky enough to live in Southern California, where so many of our days do have blue skies and sunshine. Let's use that to our advantage. Make sure that you and your family are getting outside once a day, every day. Soak in that sunshine, soak in that vitamin D. Even if it's just, 10 minutes outside, taking deep breaths, closing your eyes, feeling the sun around you, feeling that warmth. Practicing a mind-body connection, especially outside, can be really just rejuvenating. Um, so that's just a quick reminder to get some fresh air, get that vitamin D, practice a mind-body connection. Maybe it's a few sun salutations, maybe it's 10 minutes of stretching, maybe it's riding, your bikes together or going for a walk. But this can be a may do activity that you do together with your children to help rejuvenate and get you back into that must do activity list. So with that, thank you so much for joining me. You are welcome to email me with anything that you may have questions about. My email is Kara, K-A-R-A .levy, L-E-V-Y @lausd.net. And I also have office hours every Wednesday from 2 to 3 o'clock. And I look forward to doing another workshop with you in the future. I'm going to be continuing to discuss behavior reinforcement and ways to set up our children for success during distance learning. Until then, thank you so much.